Hi everybody. I'm going to show you how to make a bowl in the method of coil building, which is such an important pottery technique. Countless indigenous cultures throughout the world, throughout history, for thousands of years, have made pottery using these snake-shaped coils like we're going to do today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The only things you need are clay. We're going to use a styrofoam bowl as a mold to help us get our shape of our bowl nice and perfect as we get started. And we're going to use a paper towel. That's just going to keep our clay from sticking to that styrofoam. And then the most important tools of all are these two guys right here. Your hands are all we need to build this bowl. So to get started, we're going to make a base. We're going to make the bottom part of the bowl. And to do that, we're going to make a circle. But we don't need all of this clay for our base, so the first thing I want you to do is break this piece of clay in half. To do that, I'm going to hold on to this side of the clay with my hand like this. I'm going to put my pointer and my thumb next to pointer and thumb like that, and then I'm going to twist and pull, and that'll break it in two. If they're not exactly the same, no worries. We're going to save half for later, and we're going to use this half for the base, the bottom. All right, the next thing is what I like to call bye-bye corners. And we're going to make this into a sphere. So everybody knows how many corners spheres have, right? Right, 0. So we're going to get rid of those corners first. And I'm going to use my clay bumper. That is this part of my arm where my wrist meets my hand. And I'm just going to bump the corners. Not hard. And just bumping corners. I'm not bumping flat sides. I don't want to make them flatter. This is just saying bye-bye corners. And I'm looking at what I'm doing to make sure I'm bumping just those corners, because we want to make it round. And this is helping us out if we do it the right way. And once we've got our corners gone, then we can use our hands to push and squeeze and shape that clay into a round shape. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. These are not balls for the basketball court, but it's just got to have a round shape. Then we're going to flatten it out to a circle. And I'm going to use that same clay bumper to push and flatten out my sphere. We're looking for pretty thin, about the thickness of a cheap McDonald's hamburger. Not a homemade thick burger from the backyard, but a thin pancake thickness of a piece of clay to use for our bottom, for our base. And I'm going to use my mat. I'll flip it and push with that same clay bumper pusher spot on my arm or my hand. It's kind of your arm and your hand. And flip it so it doesn't stick. And then once I've got a good pancake thickness, cheap junior burger from the drive-thru thickness, I'm ready to put it in my styrofoam bowl. So I'm going to place my circle on my paper towel, and that's going to help my clay not stick to my bowl. We are going to have to keep our eye on this paper towel so it doesn't try to get stuck between some of our layers or coils, but my circle is pretty close to the right shape. If yours is too big, it's okay. If yours is too small, it's okay. We're going to build the rest of it with these snake-shaped coils, and we can fix everything up as we go along. So I'll set this off to the side. I'm going to push that circle a little bit more just so that it takes the space down there at the bottom of this styrofoam bowl, because that's a nice flat perfect space down in there. That's what we want for the bottom of our clay bowls as well. And then we're ready to roll coils. Now coils are long snake-shaped pieces of clay. I'm sure everyone's rolled a coil with Play-Doh or modeling clay. When we roll it with regular clay, we just have to be a little extra careful, because we don't want to trap air bubbles in our clay. That makes things crack or break when we fire it in the kiln. So to get started, I'm going to start with a small piece of clay, and we want it to be a long, skinny oval. So we're going to start by getting an oval shape just by squeezing the clay in our hands. And this is going to make it a little peanut shape. Once you have your peanut shape, then you're going to use your hand and we're going to roll back and forth on our mat. And that's going to make your coil thinner and longer. So we're going to roll from, you don't have to press hard, we're going to roll from fingertips to your wrist like a rocking chair motion. Forward and back and forward and back. And we don't want to go super thin, not like as thin as a pencil, that's probably too thin. Maybe like the thickness of a Sharpie, that's probably a good way to go. And as I'm rolling my coil, sometimes they like to thump and bump. And what that just means is your coil's getting flat. We want to keep it nice and round like an oval, so, or like a cylinder. So like we want to just squeeze it and make it round again. If you hear it, or if you feel it start to thump and bump, don't start over because it's fine. We just have to go back and round it back out so it's a nice cylinder shape. All right, I'm going to take my coil and I'm going to attach it to the very outside of my base of my circle. So I'm going to lay my coil, we'll check on that paper towel, make sure it's not in my way, and just set my coil right on the outside of my base. And then I'm going to attach it on by smoothing with my pointer finger. And all that means is I'm just going to slide my finger down the coil onto the base, like I'm sliding down a slide on the playground. I'm not pushing hard, I'm just kind of sliding that finger down. We don't want to poke and bump and make it all thumpy and bumpy. We just want to smooth that clay down from our coil onto our base. And what this is doing is not only making it look smooth and erasing that line, but also this is what's attaching our clay together. These two pieces of clay, our coil and our base, they might stick together now because the clay is sticky, but when the clay dries and the sticky goes away, they would fall right apart if we didn't do a good job of attaching. So I'm going to totally make sure that line is completely erased every time I put on a coil. And then I'm just going to repeat. I'll get another small golf ball sized piece of clay, squeeze it in my hand till it's shaped like a peanut, and then use my mat to roll forward and back. If I feel any thumps and bumps, I'm just going to stop, kind of pinch it to make it round again, and just keep going. It should be a nice smooth feeling on your hand. And then I'll just continue right where this last coil stopped. I'll start this next coil, and I'm just going to keep, I'm going to move this paper towel so it doesn't get stuck between my pieces of clay, and I'm just going to keep going. Look at that one, kind of fit just perfectly perfect, and I'll smooth it on. Alright, now I'm going to keep attaching coils to build up the walls of this bowl, and I'm going to try to make sure I place my coils right up against the paper towels so that my bowl takes the same shape as the styrofoam bowl, so that the walls come out a little bit as they go up. You probably noticed I was not smoothing those coils on. Once we get the hang of it, you can put on a couple layers of coils before you go back and smooth it on. Sometimes that helps you use your time a little bit better, get in the groove of rolling those coils. And as long as you get those smoothed on and those lines are totally gone, you're good. And the cool thing about building coil bowls like this and smoothing the insides with our fingers and making them totally smooth is because the inside of our bowls are nice and smooth, but then the outside of our bowls still have those coils showing to give it that characteristic of these historically important cultures that made these coil bowls. So I'm going to continue smoothing and coiling until my bowl gets just a little bit larger and make sure all of these lines are totally gone. Alright, and as my bowl is getting close to finished, my clay has gotten a little taller than my styrofoam bowl. So what I'm doing when I smooth now is I'm putting my finger behind my clay where I'm going to smooth, and that helps support it so I don't push the wall over. So if your clay gets a little taller than your styrofoam bowl, then just use your finger to help support as you're smoothing. And as you're going, double check that there's no little wrinkles down in here. You can smooth from side to side to really make all those lines go away. We don't want any wrinkles down in here. There'll be little rough spots when the clay dries. We want it to be really, really nice and smooth on the inside of our bowl. And we'll still have those coils like I told you on the outside. So that's it. That's how you make a coil bowl, just like people have been doing for thousands and thousands of years.